Station line handlers and lookouts. Station line handlers and lookouts.
Hey, look out.
Captain, United States Navy, retired, arriving. Aboard, sir. Welcome.
Here's the next completely eliminated.
That allowed him to be brave.
Hi, my name is Dan Dono. I'm from Charlton. I serve on the USS Constitution and 1812 Marine Guard. The uniform that I'm wearing right now is the uniform the Marines used in 1812 aboard the USS Constitution. It appears to be a dress uniform, but it's not a dress uniform. It is a combat uniform that they all wear. I serve on the USS Constitution for about the last 5 or 6 years. Also, just a little brief history of the ship. It was started in 1797 right here at the Naval Yard, the Humphreys Navy Shipyard. We're going to be going by it very shortly, and from this position we're going to fire a 17-gun salute at the Navy Shipyard. The ship was done in 1797, launched, and it was first went to sea in 1798. So the ship has been around for a few hundred years. She just came out of dry dock about a year ago this October. She was in dry dock for the last year, 2.5 years. The Navy takes her out into dry dock every 20-25 years to refit her.
Looks like the XO just... I don't know how to it's a single-breasted coat and rain on This is the musket preferred by the United States Marine Corps during the War of 1812. It is not the primary musket of the United States military. The U.S. military was carrying the Springfield Model 1795. It was the first mass-produced U.S. military musket. It was developed at the Springfield Armory, Springfield, Massachusetts, about an hour and a half down the road from here. The other reason we know that the Marine Corps preferred it is it has a lot of brass. Brass on a musket is not decorative. Brass is there because brass is easier to machine. It's easier to shape. It costs less to shape. The benefit to the Marine Corps is you're all becoming chiefs, you're all getting salty, right? Brass gets salty, it doesn't rust, it turns green, but out here in the sea air, it doesn't rust. The Springfield is a completely steel weapon, it turns orange while you look at it. We store our ammunition straight up and down in the cartridge box. These are blanks. A cartridge would be all the powder I need, plus a musket ball, sealed in paste or glue to keep it water resistant. When we want to fire, all we do is open the pan to expose the priming pan. I grab a cartridge, I bite the powder end off to expose. Don't worry, there's going to be a couple hundred of those on the tank. If you want to clean them up later, that's go with me. All right, exposes the powder end. I pour a little priming charge into the pan. I shut the pan, which covers over the powder so it doesn't fall out. And it puts this thing, so if you're familiar with black powder, you probably call it a frizzen. During this period it's not, it's called the hammer or the battery, and it puts it next to the cock. Turn the musket over, turn the powder end down, then just drop the whole thing in. Paper, twine, glue, musket ball, everything. Give it a couple of good hard taps. If you paid attention to chemistry or physics class, the reason for the hard taps is to compress it. The more compressed it is, the more compressed the gases will be when it goes off. The bigger the bang, the harder the explosion, the further the ball goes. When we come up, we go to full cock. When I pull the trigger, the flint is going to strike the battery. It's going to spark. The sparks fall into the pan. The pan ignites. Because it's out in the open, it can burn. The gases escape. It burns through a little touch hole here. The touch hole ignites the main charge. The main charge is trapped, so the gases can't escape, so they explode instead of burn. And we get
We're missing shroud eye.
All right.
There you go.
yeah.
Yes, thank you.
My name is Captain Tom Forbes, United States Navy, retired. I served for 30 years on active duty. I'm retired now, and I live in Norfolk, Virginia. Probably the greatest thing I'm famous for is I'm the great-great-grandson of George Syrian, for whom the award to be presented today is named.
What does being on the Constitution mean to you?
Well, being on Constitution is another family treasure because George Syrian is the only person who served 3 separate tours of duty aboard this ship, Constitution. And he served almost 50 years on active duty during his naval career, and finally retired as the senior master gunner in the Navy. So for me to come up, be a part of this award presentation is a very special thing, and I try to do that every year as often as I can.
So it's not just historical naval, it's also family.
Absolutely. It's not just Navy historical, but it's family historical as well. What years he served from 1826, when he was originally taken aboard Constitution as a boy at the age of 8 years old. And he was taken aboard as a boy and initially served as a powder monkey, the guys that bring powder and shot up from the ship's magazines to load in the guns. He became a warrant gunner at the age of 26, and eventually a master gunner. And as I said, he served in Constitution for 3 separate tours of duty, made an around-the-world cruise of almost 2 years' duration. He was aboard Constitution in Annapolis, Maryland, when Constitution served as a school ship for the U.S. Naval Academy. During the Civil War, the Confederate Confederate forces got a little bit too close for comfort, so the ship was relocated to Newport, Rhode Island. And of course, George Syrian went with that. And George has now passed away, of course, many years ago, and lies buried at Oak Grove Cemetery in Portsmouth, Virginia. He was in active service from the age of 8. He took a short break in service to finish his school education, and came back on active duty again and served until he retired.
I served a total of 26 years active in reserve, 4 years active and 22 reserve. I'm the president of the USS Constitution chapter of the Surface Navy Association, which is sponsoring and conducting an award coming up a little later on board the Constitution to one of the sailors who's here. So it's called the George Syrian Meritorious Service Award, named after a 19th century sailor who served almost 50 years in the Navy as a warrant gunner. So he had a very, very complete career, and when we were putting this award together 16, 17 years ago, we wanted it named after a Constitution sailor who exhibited technical excellence, dedication to duty, and leadership. This is state of the art back in the day. I mean, it truly was. That's why it was called Old Ironsides, because it could take a lot of punishment. It was a very successful ship in encountering pirates, our enemies at the time, which were primarily the Brits, and it has withstood the test of time. And thank God the country has invested in keeping this thing up, because it is the oldest active commissioned warship in the world. If you go to England and look at the HMS Victory, which was at the Battle of Trafalgar, it's not floating. It's just in a dry dock. So this ship gets underway, and it is a tremendous example of our country's commitment to the Navy. It's a tremendous training ground.
So once you're done, you go that way. I gotta back up.
Release batteries on. Fire!
Get ready.
Fire! Fire!
Alright, so don't touch it.
Fire! 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 America! Fire!
Batteries released. Retired.
Master Chief Surface Warfare Charles Chip Collins. Surgeon, I am the surgeon. I am responsible for the health of the crew and shipboard hygiene.
Chiefs! Honor! Courage! Commitment! Stay Navy out to sea!